We're back and we're live with a new couch. So life's good. Nick, it's been a wild month. Sorry, Jared, I'll lower this down. Can you hear me out there? Big week.
Yeah.
Crypto's always throwing up surprises. Market's up. Life's back. The Petra upgrade, which you talked about, got slammed on social media for. But the market is loving it.
Yeah,
never mind those chumps who didn't think you knew what you were talking about.
The victory laps are in. Ethereum's up, it was like 20% in one day at one point. So, yeah. All those guys who are still holding Ethereum, which if you were here last week, isn't me. Congratulations.
Your bags are pumped.
Yeah. Having said that, you look at the charts and it's 3 of these god candles in a row, each like day after day. But then you zoom out just a little bit, and it's still like the downside is engulfing of the upside so far. Anyway, got a long way to go.
You did say Ethereum. You claimed it last week, and you were correct. The Petra upgrade, people seem to like it, but also just the maybe the end of the ceasefire in the markets.
Yeah.
Turns out India and Pakistan are not going to war, and America and China maybe not going to have a trade war. So, markets are good.
Not for 90 days at least. So we've got a bit of upside for the next 3 months possibly, and then we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Right. So give us a summary. Where are the markets at? Well, what's happening? What's making life good?
We've kind of summarised it there, I guess. There's these days everyone looks to macro when you look to decide what's going to happen next. We've had this sort of decoupling thing that's been happening over the last little while, which is kind of what all the Bitcoin guys have been, screaming about for a long time. When it decouples, then we'll be able to, finally take off. And that has happened, and it was good for a while. So everything was getting crunched, and Bitcoin was mostly flat, if not going up. It was outperforming by a good margin. But then sort of the opposite has happened more recently. So we had a bunch of upside because of, these the tariff cessation, I suppose, has come into effect thanks Trump, and Bitcoin didn't really do very much. In fact, it pumped a bit like at the beginning and then retraced a lot of it. We're over 100K, so can't complain. Like these are big numbers we've got, which if you rewind a few years, 100K was sort of a pipe dream. So you should zoom out and think about the big picture. But if you're sort of comparing directly to the Nasdaq and to S&P and whatnot, they've been loving this tariff news, and Bitcoin has sort of just been a bit more cool, but it's because it's had this previous really good run in a decoupled kind of fashion, I suppose.
Talk us through this decoupling stuff, because news comes out, Bitcoin reacts one way, another news comes in, Bitcoin reacts another way. An update, like something that was previously bad comes out and it's even worse, but then Bitcoin pumps, so it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make that make sense.
You said a lot of words there. I guess at a high level, everyone wanted Bitcoin to be decoupled. Everyone wants it to be a store of wealth because that's kind of what it's good for. It's got this, scarcity, a limited 21 million Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. Can't be mucked around with. And that sort of never really happened. So it always just acted like a beta, like a risk asset where it was just reacting to all the news constantly. Now, I think Trump has really done us a favor here because Trump is sort of so erratic in his policies and his announcements and what he says he's going to do and makes big statements, but then, 3 weeks later does the complete opposite. Just think about how negative he was towards Bitcoin and crypto in his first session a few years ago. And now here he is like the champion of crypto and Bitcoin. His opinions and what he wants to do can just change, it can turn on a dime. So everyone's, I guess, got a little bit less confidence in the US dollar. And that's really helping push Bitcoin, things like Bitcoin, and obviously gold has always been there, into like this store of wealth kind of asset.
Yep.
Because you can't, previously you're just like, oh, well, don't worry, we'll just chuck it into USD. That's like the classic safe haven, reserve asset of the world. But people are like, well, maybe we need some other option here because who knows what the US dollar is going to do tomorrow.
It sounds like it's good to hear that markets are random and nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last week as well. Everyone is just sort of holding off. The traditional finance guys don't know what to do because they've never seen swings of 3 or 4% before. And Bitcoin, crypto guys, bloodied and battered and bruised, and they're like, "Is that all you've got?" Kind of thing. And they're I don't know.
I feel nothing.
Yeah, it's hard to feel.
Well, bad luck, Peter Schiff, because gold's down while Bitcoin's up.
But
Bitcoin's just going up regardless, is it not, or is it?
We topped like 106 or something the other day, and now we're back down to 101, 102. But it's as we're above 100K, I think that can only be good news. I'm not as I said before, you've got to zoom out a little bit.
Okay, so we've got to get in the news then. So it sounds like life's going good for everyone in crypto right now, particularly those Ethereum bag holders. Ethereum spelt wrong. In search traffic suggests that retail is back.
I love this.
People are buying, they don't even know what it's called.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I think when I first started in the industry, I'm pretty sure I would have spelt it Ethereum with an I, and then got corrected. But yeah, it's a pretty funny, and there's no sort of obvious way way to do this in Bitcoin. It's sort of Ethereum. You can measure retail so easily just by spelling. The other thing I really loved about this story, so I guess to extrapolate, Ethereum, if you look at the searches for Ethereum spelled incorrectly, so IUM at the end of the word Ethereum, you can see the volume of these searches is going really high at the moment, and it's kind of suggesting that unsophisticated investors are now getting interested again, which you hark over to the retail investors. I really like this. My main sort of reason for enjoying this one was, of course, as happens in every kind of scenario where something weird happens, someone started a meme coin called Ethereum. And interestingly, there's a couple of them, but the highest volume one is on Solana. So, but yeah, that was like a massive pump at the start. It dumped right down, then it pumped again, and then it dumped again. So
get long Ethereum on Sol. Actually, no, don't do that because we're not allowed to give financial advice. Yeah. So do not do that unless you've done your own research.
Even if you've done your research, you'll come to the conclusion
we are not giving you advice.
You should not be longing Ethereum. It's just a bad idea.
You know what? Since there's been some sweet victory laps for you in particular, Nick. So last week. We got some. Hey, you know what? Now since last week we have we've got more live viewers and we've got questions, I believe. Wait, premature. We don't have questions yet. Maybe next week. Hey, if you're listening.
G'day, 36 viewers.
But the picture upgrade, like last year, you got absolutely pizzled on social media. Actually, one guy said you didn't know what you're talking about, but you were right, Nick. So run us through. Give us a victory lap.
No, I'm not going to victory lap this one. Pectra has gone through. It's Ethereum's 14th hard fork or something like that. They've all, like, the news on this one is that there's 100% uptime on every hard fork. And that's great news. Like, it's good. But in my opinion, that's sort of what it should be. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be taking a victory lap for
doing your job,
not screwing up. And to be fair, it is a difficult thing. And I remember, like, when the merge happened, which is a couple of years ago now, I guess, it was like the difficulty of upgrading the merge successfully in production was likened to, upgrading a jet engine's engine while the plane was flying in midair or something like that. Okay. It was very, very difficult. And all of these updates have so much complexity, and every complex update builds on the previous one's complex updates, and there's just orders of magnitude of complexity here. So it is difficult, but they're a professional team. They've got a whole bunch of people. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of resources to test, lots of resources. I fully expect them to be able to upgrade. But I mean, the news here is not that the upgrade happened. We already know that. The news here is that the price has basically bounced off that upgrade, and finally, for the first time ever, we're getting some. Not first time ever, first time in living memory, which in crypto world is about 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. We have, Ethereum price going up, and it's finally, going up faster than other cryptocurrencies, which a lot of people measure against. So the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio is finally going up. That's been down only for a long time. Anyway, it's so my point last week, for those, we only had 6 viewers last week. Now we've got 45. So, just for those of you who missed last week's update, my sort of point last week was around the decentralization of Ethereum versus Solana. So Solana's, really nipping at the heels of Ethereum. It's causing Ethereum a lot of angst when it comes to sort of the culture and, what the social fabric thinks about it. But when you sort of zoom out, take a step back and look at what Ethereum has achieved, it's very good. it's more decentralized. It's got more clients, more redundancy, all this kind of stuff. And again, I'm not an Ethereum maxi. I sold most of my Ethereum, unfortunately. But yeah. So Ethereum, I think, has got a lot going for it, and a lot of people are calling for its death, and I think that is well premature.
Well premature. So the the big general, I guess, theme in crypto right now is really RWAs, real world tokenization, putting things that TradFi has done for years on the blockchain and making it smoother, more seamless, just better. And the vast majority of that is still on Ethereum, which you called last week. And I think it surprised anyone really. I mean, there's been so much hard work going on Ethereum.
Yeah, did you pronounce it with an I then?
The real world's like the stuff, and this is kind of getting down to the fun stuff, because like for so long we've had meme coins and like just degenerate stuff that we love. Don't get me wrong, but like it's always just been the fun stuff, and always the elements of crypto that have been sort of derided and easy to ignore by the rest of the world. Now we're getting down to the real business of actually using crypto what it was designed to do, and Ethereum is still leading that charge.
100%.
So where
it's got the first mover advantage. Can it maintain the first mover advantage? That's the question. At the moment, it is. We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? I mean, I think I mentioned last week my favorite meme of the week last week was, well, actually 2 weeks in a row, Ethereum has taken out the best meme of the week. But last week we saw the images of like Explorer and Nokia, and Ethereum was there saying welcome to the club. But it looks like that was definitely premature. So getting again real world stuff. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the Genius Stablecoin Act, the guiding and establishing national innovation in the US.
Yeah, what a great backronym.
But blocked. It's been blocked. It's been blocked on
we talked about
concerns
this
of
one
AML and Trump's crypto profits.
Yeah, we talked about this one last week. And I think there was one of the ladies, Maxine Waters, was threatening to block it. It was pretty close vote though, so 48 to 49, almost got there. So this isn't the vote for the actual bill. This was the vote for the cloture to begin, which is, I mean, it's so complex when you're talking about the Legislative Council and the House of this and the whatever. There's so many different things that possibly can happen and various weird rules. But the idea here is that people are supposed to get feedback and mull it over themselves and whatnot for a long period before it actually gets voted on.
Yep.
You can also vote for a sort of a fast tracking, which is called a cloture, which allows you to just take the bill straight into Parliament or whatever and talk about it, start debating it basically. And this was the vote for the cloture. They didn't manage to get that through. So the bill's not dead. It just means it's not going to get sort of fast tracked through the process.
So it's just another stitch in time.
And it was a very close vote. So I think next time if they make some changes, it should be fine. I don't think a lot of the news articles out around this piece talk about how the Democrats are really upset with Trump's alleged, corruption and profiteering around the meme coins and whatnot that have happened. I feel for that. Like that's something that needs to be sorted out. I think. I don't think it will be sorted out anytime soon, I guess, while he's president. But something needs to happen there because it's not good.
And then he'll pardon himself before he's not president.
Yeah,
it won't matter.
Yeah, I mean, right now all we've got to try and work on is the next president not doing it as well, because it's just terrible precedent. But I think the main reasons it seems to have actually been denied was around actual technical details around the bill, which is good. Because it means those can be sorted out, and then the next time they vote on it, hopefully it'll get passed.
And it's probably in a lot of ways it's a good thing. They're going, well, if we need to sort out these technical details, and then actually that actually kind of sounds bipartisan, dare I say?
Yeah, maybe.
All right, moving along. So we're going to move on to Facebook and /Meta revisiting stablecoins. No, they had the Libra thing a while ago. Are they revisiting it or just kind of reviving? Oh well. They just kind of like continuing on with what they had before. Yeah,
they're revisiting the crypto complex, I suppose. So the Libra.
What? Sorry, it's led by VP Ginger Baker. So for the music nerds out there, Ginger Baker was the drummer from the 1960s band with Eric Clapton. Sure. Ginger Baker, Cream, Sunshine of Your Love. Everyone knows Sunshine of Your Love and those songs. Ginger Baker was the drummer. So I reckon his old man's a hippie.
Could be. Oh, right. Namesake.
Yeah. Ginger was a redhead, needless to say. Sorry, I've interrupted.
No, that's fine. Yeah, Facebook. Yeah, so I guess, the Libra coin, which everyone, or a lot of people have heard of, when Facebook first tried to launch their own stable coin, it became called Diem towards the end of its life. But then this was like Congress just crushed this thing. I've never seen it happen.
Crushed it like in a good way,
or
crushed it in like
no,
a bad
not
way?
in a good way. They put an end to it. They hated the idea, and I've never seen a company back down so quickly as well. Such a big thing. You'd think they'd have all of their ducks in a row before trying to launch something like this, but they got stopped very quickly. Interestingly, the technology behind Libra and Diem became part of SUI. So the layer 1 SUI now, which is also capturing a bunch of headlines. It's not. There's a bunch of team members from the Libra from the Libra Facebook team. Took the tech. They open sourced it. Like Facebook were like, all right, we'll open source it. Then the guys who were working on it are like, we'll take that open source that we've already been working on already, and they made SUI a couple of years later.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, but in terms of what we're talking about here, Facebook aren't building their own crypto again. They're just open to the idea of using stable coins as a method of payment. So a lot of content creators out there get paid for the ads and the views and whatever. And it seems like they're looking at it for the micro payments. So anything under $100, they're looking to see if they can use stable coins, because I guess it's just too much friction and too difficult to use fiat for that kind of stuff, sending checks out for $14.39 and whatever. So why not use stable coins? And then this is all sort of an announcement of an announcement of like, unnamed sources have said. Okay. So we'll see what actually happens. But according to the unnamed sources, they're looking at it for micro style mini payments under $100. They're not stuck to any specific stable coin. So i.e. they're not going to partner with Circle or something like that. They're going to use whatever is appropriate, maybe a mix. But yeah, it's cool. They're getting back into it. I mean, it wasn't cool last time, so everyone loves to look at history and go, that's going to happen all over again, just the same way. So if that's the case here, this is actually bad news.
Okay, good.
But it's Facebook's a huge company. They're signaling that crypto is on their time horizon, so I like it.
It's just a continuation. I mean, we see it all the time. It's fascinating, right? Because you can see it, it's happening. It's just the amount of businesses and companies that are going over the event horizon and kind of going on to accept this as mainstream. It's a great feeling of inevitability until Bitcoin crashes and everyone forgets about it and everything will continue to build. But then, in 4 years' time, we'll be doing small victory laps.
Right. Victory laps.
All right. The SEC continues to signal a shift on its attitude towards crypto. A SEC chair, Paul Atkins, that maybe had the same name as a dude in the band once, I don't know. But he's promising to end ad hoc enforcement. That's got to be a good thing.
Yeah. There's not much to say here, to be honest. This is everyone knew that Gary Gensler was getting the flick as soon as Trump came in, according to Trump. But and it happened. I tip my hat to him. He did that. Having said that, I wonder if Gary was just like, you know what, I'm out. I don't want to be in this kind of situation. I don't know. I get the vibes I get from this new guy is like anything that Gary did, he's like the opposite. So it's like,
reverse Gary.
They're like, so what are your thoughts on stable coins? He's like, was Gary against stable? He was? Okay, no, I love stable coins. Not quite, but you get my feeling. It's sort of
Gary Gensler has been replaced with Gary Gensler Gary.
That's right, the anti-Gary Gensler. So I don't know. Everything. He seems to be stepping away from everything that the previous SEC administration did. To the point where it's like the opposite of everything they've done. Which, to be honest, they were kind of the evil actors in the last cycle, which is kind of funny because everyone, the government is always
the bad guy,
and here they were, overtly being the bad guy, suing people left, right, and centre. So it's kind of cool to see the anti-Gary Gensler come in and not sue people, but I don't know what the opposite of suing is. He's not giving them money, but they're like trying to move forward with
pretty productive.
Exactly.
I think it's a Nick quote from the last cycle. You either die the hero or you live long enough. Well, maybe you live. Let me get the quote out first. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yep. And Gary Gensler. Well, I guess he's a funny character, that guy. So if you look back far enough in his history, he used to lecture on Bitcoin.
Oh, when he first came in, everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, how good is Gary Gensler going to be?" Because he used to give in lectures and stuff.
Exactly, like he knows, and I think I don't know. They got to him, The shadowy,
Elizabeth Warren
the
got to
cabal
him.
Got to him, yeah. But having said that, he was always okay with Bitcoin. I think it was just all the other stuff that he really hated and was going to ridiculous lengths to kill.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, he ended up dying the villain. But he wasn't really much of a hero.
He never really was the hero.
He was never really a hero, but people had high hopes for him.
Yeah. What a disappointment. Into the dustbin you go, Gary.
Yeah. Well, let's see how the new guy goes.
Anyway, let's all get behind Paul Atkins until he does something we don't like. Solana decentralized Nasdaq. All right. So what's this? So the Solana founder has proposed redesigning consensus to mimic Nasdaq's order flow.
Yeah.
Is we reinventing the wheel here, or we?
Yeah. Basically, I think this sounds cool on paper. So he's trying to basically build a product that can compete with the Nasdaq on execution. There's if you read to the end of the article, there's a quote from a guy who's running this new chain called Fogo chain, and he's basically says,
What was that again?
Fogo.
Fogo.
I hadn't heard of it either until now. I don't think it's actually been released yet. It's just still in testnet. But he's basically saying, look, it's cute that you want to try and do some really cool stuff and be as fast as the Nasdaq and or even faster, etc. But you just can't do it. You're on chain. So how do you expect to? He's run like this, like the Solana guy, and he's running in, pretending blockchain has got all the answers and everything that's not blockchain is 50 years old and has never innovated. It's no, those guys know what they're doing. They've built this incredible execution system. It's so fast. Yes, it's centralized, but that's what it's expected to be. It's meant to be.
Yeah, I think this is again, I'm not the tech guy, but my understanding, it's centralized systems can be optimized for speed and whatever in a closed system, and blockchains are stable, but they're slow.
Yeah,
right?
and the purpose of them is other things.
And decentralization,
they
right?
could be faster, but it just, I don't know. I'm keen to see how it goes because they think they've cracked the code, and they've got a bunch of papers out that discuss how they've done it and all the new theories and whatnot, and it sounds pretty cool. I'm just skeptical. I'm keen to see how it pans out.
Okay, so we've got to wait and see if anything comes of that.
But this has apparently been Anatoly, the Solana creator's vision from the start, right? This is what he's wanted to do. And there's some quote about him when he invented Solana, it was 4 a.m. and he's onto his second coffee and he just finished a beer and suddenly he had this idea and he's like, I'm going to build a blockchain. And then he did it and built Solana. But yeah, apparently from the beginning, it's always the vision has always been to sort of compete on with the Nasdaq style system.
All right, we'll wait and see. Goldman leads the Bitcoin ETF holding. So Goldman Sachs now the largest holder of Bitcoin, BlackRock's ETF. That's pretty cool, or is it cool, or is it just? I don't know. You tell me. I don't have an opinion.
Yeah, I'll give you your opinion.
You tell me what to think.
In fact, I'll give all of our 77 viewers my opinion.
88.
Plus the YouTube. G'day, YouTubes.
Really?
So this is cool. It's more interesting than anything. So Goldman Sachs now owns something like 31 million something shares of the IBIT ETF, which is the BlackRock ETF. I tried to run the numbers on this one. As far as I can tell, 30 million shares gets you a total of something like 3% of the total of BlackRock's thing. BlackRock's ETF. So it's not like they're taking a majority position here.
Yeah.
A quorum in any sense of the word. So what they've done is they've increased their holdings by 28%. So it doesn't really, that's 28% from whatever they were holding before. There's nothing much to it. Goldman Sachs is, so if you look back in Goldman Sachs' history of crypto, it's not very good from a investor's point of view, because I think the first time they entered crypto, they turned on a trading desk and it ended up being 3 days before the top. And then it was just down only from then onwards. And then the next time they got invested in, they started doing something in crypto, again, it was right at the top. And they've done it before as well. It's not just crypto they do this in. They do it in traditional instruments as well, where they open some kind of trading desk and then it's just down only.
Absolutely burnt.
Yeah, so now they're like, right, that's it. We're going to get in early and buy all the IBIT shares, and it's probably going to be the top.
Damn.
But
All right, there we go. So the
hopefully
top
they'll
is
break the
in.
trend. But yeah, no, it's good. I mean, the other interesting thing about this is the BlackRock ETF. In terms of its numbers, it's just sailing away from all the competition.
Yeah.
The other guys have got no chance at this stage. Everyone's dumping everything into.
Well, it's the one name now. It's the name that's fresh on everyone's lip. It's the only one that seems to get press coverage, and it feels like it's.
Yeah.
I know there's a bunch of ETFs, but it feels like the BlackRock ETF was kind of like the thing that we just all know about and heard about, and anyone who
They
cares about.
definitely were the big name when it started. But like, if you look at other asset classes, even though there are, BlackRock is the biggest everywhere, it's generally more even in terms of inflows. Because a lot of the time, I guess the ETFs are fairly competitive, and people want to have less concentration risk, I suppose. But yeah, it just seems at the moment that everyone's using. I mean, they've all had inflows. Don't get me wrong; it's not like the other ones are bleeding into BlackRock. They've all had inflows, which is awesome. But yeah, BlackRock's just killing it.
BlackRock dominating. Well, this should have been up the order. So the big news: Alex Gonski in jail, 12 years, bad luck, son.
That guy sucks.
Shouldn't have cheated everyone.
I hate that guy. No, this is
fraud.
This
He's gone for fraud and market manipulation.
Yeah.
Prosecutors say that he made $84 million while telling all his investors and dump and sell. What a dick.
Yeah, he's an actual bad guy. Like, he's not.
Yeah,
he's not like
probably
he's
has a
some guy
supervillain,
super villain. He's not some guy who just made some bad. He's not sort of the Three Arrows Capital where you can be like, maybe these guys just made some bad decisions. This guy's just out and out a bad guy.
There's a big difference between strategical bad bad decisions that kind of blew up your company versus just outright fraud. And so he was a,
yeah, he was bad. He should go to jail. I'm glad he's going to jail. And I you know what, to be honest, I don't give a shit about him. What we want is all the people who are affected by the Celsius blow up to get, to recover all of their funds. That's kind of what really matters. Anyway. But I know people who were affected by that have been getting the payouts. So don't know if it's. I don't think it's one for one. But
yeah, like I definitely I won't mention names, but we met with the Celsius team, and I knew some of the people from the Celsius team, and as it was blowing up, I mean they were being lied to as well, and I think this is the thing, right? So he was prepared to lie to everyone and deceive everyone, and fly in his private jet, and
the CFO is the one who made him cook.
Really?
That guy sort of did a deal with.
And it was like, I'm going to roll over here and tell everything I know.
Yeah, and so that's how they really got him, because this guy just opened the doors and said, here's all the stuff.
Yeah,
Here's how we used to run this
Leave
place.
me out of jail and send him, because he was the one who was doing it.
I'm guessing he'll still get time, but...
Oh, really?
I assume so. I mean, if he was complicit...
Oh, if he was complicit, I guess, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, and I spoke to people. I remember when it was blowing up and I was speaking to people who were there, and they were like, no, it's fine. Don't worry, everyone's been telling us internally, it's all good, and, here's what we know. And of course, they were being lied to as well. And then once it all went down, I mean, they were just equally as filthy as everyone else, because they were just being deceived as well.
Well, they probably would have lost a bunch of money.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Invested in this incredible product.
Because it tends to be the case. I mean, if you're working for somewhere, I would hope that if you're working somewhere and you know the inside of it, and you looked at the inside of it and you go, well, I'm here because, this is the right thing, or this is a product I can believe in.
Of course,
they genuinely believed it. So, man, that's rough stuff. Speaking of being misled, Trump misled by XRP lobbyists. Talk us through this one. So, hang on. So, I mean, XRP is a pretty household name. Trump wrongly announced XRP would be part of the National Crypto Reserve. Also, Trump misled by XRP lobbyists. Sounds like he misled everyone else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, arm's length, I guess. So I'm not sure if you remember back when he was, there's all these amazing announcements coming out about what Trump was doing with crypto and whatnot, and he put this tweet out saying, I'm going to do this strategic reserve, or strategic stockpile he might have called it, because there's two different things. I think it's the strategic stockpile, which is going to have XRP, Solana, and Cardano ADA in it. And everyone was like, that's cool, but what? What about Bitcoin? And then he sent a follow-up tweet going, and also Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're my favorites, or something like that.
Just to clarify,
which is just kind of weird. But yeah, then turns out the reason why he sent out that weird tweet was some lobbyist who worked for Ripple had crafted the tweet for him. And he'd obviously, this kind of highlights that he just has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to crypto.
It's
gonna
still Barron.
he would spell Ethereum with an I reckon.
Barron would be up there just telling you what to do.
Charles Hoskinson was invited to that night, and then on the night was uninvited and was never asked about the
tweet
as well.
Oh, really?
So 100% it was just a PR stunt.
Yeah, which
Dang.
is
That's disappointing. Hey, we got a question. I can't see it because there's a big
That's
light
right. The question
right in
is-
front of where I would read it.
When do you think the big four banks will enable self-custody of crypto within their normal bank accounts?
Self-custody, the big four banks obviously wouldn't have self-custody. So I think they're suggesting maybe when will the big four banks allow
custody.
Hold
to
crypto.
buy Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin? Maybe not self-custody, but hold Bitcoin on their balance, like hold Bitcoin for customers. It's a great question, but assuming I've understood that question correctly, because you can obviously self-custody now, but
Sholto asked the question.
Sholto, thanks, Sholto. Thanks, great question, Sholto. I think, look, I don't know. So with the banks, the Australian banks, at least the big four, are still a long way away from really making crypto a mainstream product. Is a reality.
Yeah, the big four definitely. It'll happen. It'll happen on a small bank, like it does in every sort of scenario. El Salvador's the first one to, some random little weird country. It's going to be a random little weird bank that starts it. But anything like this is going to need regulation, right? Because the banks are so heavily regulated, they can't just go out and trailblaze something like this. So they'll need to speak to the regulator. There'll be some kind of what do you call it? Like a exploratory sort of idea where the regulator goes, okay, we can trial this out specifically here under a certain very limited set of circumstances. When's that going to happen? Gosh, no time soon.
Yeah, no time soon.
Unfortunately, any kind of legislation, even just getting legislation around, we're Independent Reserve, we're a crypto exchange. We've been pleading, asking, crying for legislation, crying for rules to help us, show the public that we are doing the right thing.
Yep.
Literally since we started back in 2013, 2014, and we've essentially got nowhere. The only regulatory body that's done anything is Austrac, and those guys have sort of put some rules around how we report bad actors, but it doesn't really help us in terms of running the exchange. How do we custody stuff? How do we, handle client funds and the flows and what we're allowed to do with the money and all that kind of stuff. So we have to do it as best we can. We form our own set of internal rules, and these are our guidelines that we run our business by, and we think that they're, all legitimate and doing the best for the customer, but there's nothing saying that we actually have to do any of those things.
Yep.
So
it's gonna be
until
wild.
we step one's going to be that kind of legislation coming out first, where we get some more clarity around how exchanges can operate. I don't think it's going to be it'll be step 5 or something when banks are allowed to start
to do this
dipping
stuff.
their toes in kind of crypto custody, I think.
It seems the reality is that the banks, even if they wanted to do it tomorrow, they're still. I mean, the outward appearance is that they still don't really understand it. Let alone have the technical ability to integrate this thing and do this thing. And also the challenge would be, I can imagine, if you look at just the way the startup or a crypto business is start up, there's these wallets out there with teams of, 10, 15 dudes or whatever, and they can move incredibly quick, and they move fast, they break stuff or whatever. And the internal way a bank moves is they've got to build the capability. That takes time. You've got to have them develop a product, which is going to take time. You've got to have them go through God knows how many layers of authorization with feedback and changes and whatever else to kind of get it through. So you could probably get if they even employed 100 people to make this thing happen, it's going to take 4 years before they come out with something that has been solved by a team of developers in, I don't know. somewhere.
CBA were going to do
3 years ago.
something
They
a few years ago, remember?
There was that article that came out that their investment owned, I think they owned equity in an exchange like Gemini or someone.
No, but they were going to do something.
And they were going to offer something to customers through some kind of thing, but it was very unclear. And there was only there's only a few articles about it. It was very unclear. Yeah,
but from my memory, they were going to do something similar to what PayPal originally offered, which was you could hold crypto, you could invest in the crypto asset, but you couldn't withdraw it on chain. So it was basically like
closed-end loop and
yeah, exactly. But then I think at that point, I think FTX blew up or something like that,
It's
and then
game over.
CBA were like, "Whoa,
no,
this
they get
place is crazy."
yeah,
So yeah, they bailed very quickly, and then went the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And now
It
they're like the
blocked
most
everyone.
limited banks you can get.
It's funny, right? Imagine if a bank was. I mean, I can understand there are a lot of people who just want to participate for the price action, but anyone who's spending a lot of time in crypto knows that self custody is a massive aspect of it, and being able to participate in new protocols and new programs. You're okay, Jared? Just deflating. No, just wanted to check on your welfare. Don't want to have you exploding over there. You know what I mean? Like if you had a closed loop system, which would be fantastic from a control point of view to make sure that no one is doing anything silly for themselves.
No,
To take away, I guess, a lot of the important aspect of crypto, which is personal responsibility for your own assets.
Yep. I hope that answers your question, Sholto. Unfortunately, we don't really know, but it's probably going to be a long time. Unfortunately. I mean, let's be real. If banks started doing that, it's probably a bit of a threat to us. So, not so unhappy. You can custody your crypto with the most trusted exchange in Australia, Independent Reserve.
Yeah. All right. Last topic. Thanks for the questions. We probably don't have any more questions, but last one on our topic before we wrap things up. Singapore Gulf Bank expands advisory board. Man, this has been a burning question for so
Yeah, this was, I don't know. I can see why it's the last topic.
It's the last topic.
There's not much here, to be honest. So Singapore Gulf Bank, they're expanding. They're the first licensed bank in the NEMA region, which is like the
My favourite
Africa
region.
and Africa and like the Middle East and that kind of area. North Africa and the Middle East or something like that. I mean, it's cool. It's bankrolled by someone in one of those Arab countries and Singapore, obviously.
The most impressive thing about this news article is that you actually know something about it.
Yeah. I think you've reached the extent of my knowledge now. If you read the article, to be honest, it's just like, 17 names have been appointed to the board of some other name, and there's really not much to grab onto here. But I mean, it's just showing progress, right?
Yep.
It's showing that banks are getting involved, and really, when you think about crypto, but people always talk about, what's the point? Why wouldn't I just use money? It's less volatile. I can send it through my bank account. We've got, MPP here in Australia. It's super quick. You send it to someone 24/7, gets there in seconds. It's awesome. And that's all absolutely true. In a first world country where, you don't have to worry about banking. Banking is like literally, part of your rights. You're allowed a bank account. If you can't get a bank account, the government will provide you with a bank account. These kind of things don't seem to make as much sense. But then when you're talking about more second, third world countries where banking is a privilege, it's not a right, and you're kind of lucky, and most of the vast majority of people are unbanked.
Yes.
Then getting involved, having like a more digital bank is probably helping some progress there. I mean, the reality is the people who are unbanked probably are still not going to get a bank account with this digital bank either. Yeah. But it's just it's opening more doors. I'm guessing maybe it's going to allow more merchants to start accepting crypto, and this is little bits of progress.
The social inclusion thing is a big aspect, and in Australia, at least we never think about this because we have excellent banking here. I can't remember the stats, but I do remember looking into this and talking about financial inclusion and saying, well, look, the amount of people who have access to top, really first-rate banking services is a small percentage of the global population, and you go, well, hang on, this is pretty crappy. There's financial inclusion should be like something, or the ability to transact in a safe and secure way should be almost a fundamental human right in a lot of ways, right? And you look at the way, El Salvador, you always use this example, is that they had a bunch of their population which was just unbanked and still relied on US dollar physical US dollar cash to actually run their economies. Because, traditional banking services or whatnot just could not reach people out in various places. And the argument was always, well, and this is not just El Salvador, but in a lot of places where there's probably the couple billion people worldwide that are unbanked, saying, well, these people have access to the internet, but they don't have access to banks, right? And all of a sudden now we have a technology which allows for anyone who has access to the internet, and the internet can reach people quicker than bank branches can, to have a level of financial inclusion that they previously did not have. And from just a human rights viewpoint, that's a really good thing for humanity. And not to get too deep with like the role that maybe Bitcoin or all these things can play in the world, but you know, it's still a really important point, and is completely overlooked, but I know we kind of just touched on that now. So, you know, I guess maybe it'd be nice to hear some good stories about how things have progressed on the human rights front.
Agreed.
Yep. Oh, wow. 99 viewers.
100.
100.
Hey.
We did it.
We went from 3 to 100 in 1 week.
Wow.
That's all you, Jared.
Thank you.
This is good. Well, we've run through it, man. Awesome. We've made 100 today, Nick. Thank you. It's because you're so good looking.
Yeah, that's it. They're back for the eye candy.
They came for the eye and candy and the bright orange shirt. All right. Well, I think we're probably around about time, but that was awesome. Thanks, Nick. By awesome, I mean you were awesome.
Oh gosh. Yeah, we'll be back next week.
With a better. Hey, next week we're going to have an even better couch. There's been big debates on the show whether we should have, because we've been sitting in chairs and you're swiveling too much last week, and everyone's like, "Dude, can you stop that?"
A real problem.
So we had to have this static chair to fix up your swiveling problem. But now, next week we might have even better chairs. So you know, if you didn't like Nick talking, come back for the chairs at least. But we should have some fun again next week, and hopefully some more good news rolling in.
Yeah, and send all your questions in. Thanks for the question before. Happy to answer this stuff. I think it's awesome to be like interactive with anyone who's watching.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the game for the last 5 minutes for questions. So
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. Thanks everyone listening in. We'll be back next week, same time. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.